Good morning. This is Dr. Faith Acker from Southeastern Louisiana University. In this short video, I'm going to be giving a brief overview of how to use the JSTOR Understanding functionality within the JSTOR library database to find scholarship on particular passages in Shakespeare's plays. We start with the Southeastern Louisiana University homepage, go to Academics and the Library. From the library homepage, you'll want to click on the Articles and Databases tab, and today for this project, we'll be working exclusively with the database JSTOR. If you haven't already been on the library database, when you click on JSTOR today, you'll need to pause and enter your W number and your date of birth on the login screen, and then it should take you to this page, which you would normally use just to do an advanced search. And you'll notice that if I do a search on Hamlet, there are thousands of results. But in fact, if I'm writing a paper on a short passage in Hamlet, some of these articles are not going to be particularly relevant. I might find that they're not on the sections or the passages that are particularly important. And fortunately, JSTOR has a wonderful tool that it does in partnership with the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C. that allows you to see which of these 102,000 articles on Hamlet have quoted each particular line of Hamlet, which is a great way to narrow down your search results. So you can do this both on the search result page by going to the Tools button, but you can also do it from the search page that we started with, the very first page that you come to when you log into JSTOR. You'll want to go to Tools and then use the drop-down menu to get to the JSTOR Understanding series. And you'll actually see that this is not just limited to Shakespeare. Here's, for example, articles on Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, short stories by Kate Chopin, and a host of other literary texts that have been heavily analyzed in a large number of JSTOR articles. There is a section just for Shakespeare, and you can click on that. In this case, because we're doing something so popular, Hamlet is actually the first and most popular entry. You can see that there are 19,550 different quotations from Hamlet that have been tagged and entered into the JSTOR database. But if you're doing this for something that isn't Hamlet and you don't feel like scrolling down this entire list to try to find measure for measure, you could also click the Shakespeare tab and then find your play with its beautiful token image on this longer list of just Shakespearean plays, and that will work for any author who's in the JSTOR Understanding database. Here I'm going to click on Hamlet, and this is when it gets really fun. The text of Hamlet that I can see on this particular page is a facsimile of the text of Hamlet that's produced in the Folger Shakespeare Library editions, which have the play of the text on the right and explanations on the left. If you don't have those Folger Shakespeare Library editions, you don't actually need to be using a Folger Shakespeare Library edition in order to use the Shakespeare Understanding database. You just need to know which act and which scene the passage that you want to study happens to be in. In this case, it opens with Act 1, Scene 1, which seems like a logical place to begin. And you can see that this second line of the play, Francisco says, "Nay, answer me, standing on fold yourself." Over here on the right, there's a little blue 28. And that's a hyperlink, and if I click on the hyperlink, it will show me all 28 articles that quote this particular line of Hamlet, the second line. It'll even give me a little preview of the way in which most of these lines are actually used within the article. So I have 3 pages of search results, and I can see Who's There, Elsinore, and Elsewhere quotes it 3 different times on 3 different pages. I can just click download PDF here and it will download it, or I can save it and it will save it to a list of articles that I can look at later. I can scroll down, I can look at the passage or paragraph in which this line is quoted in each particular article, and I can also see the titles of the articles. Do they sound interesting? I can see the authors, and I can see when they were published and how long they are. This one is 21 pages. I'm on page 1 of 3, so I can keep going through the 3 pages of results here. So this is a great way to see what's been written about a line or a passage that you're interested in. Let's look at one of my favorite passages, which is Hamlet's speech where he says, "Oh, what a piece of work is man." It's in Act 2, Scene 2, so I can use the drop-down menu to get to Act 2, Scene 2. Which begins right here where it says Scene 2 at the top of the page. And I will note that there are periodically going to be these bars across the middle. This is actually the header on the page in the Folger Shakespeare Library edition that is being placed here in facsimile. And these will tell you, just to make sure if you're scrolling down very quickly, you'll know which act and which scene you're in, but don't be confused if you see the word Hamlet randomly in the middle of your page. So I'm going to scroll down because Act 2, Scene 2 is actually fairly long. And here's Hamlet's speech beginning, "I will tell you why." And then right here, he says, "What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, in form and moving." And you can see this is a wildly popular passage. In fact, it's been quoted in 116 articles, which actually seems like a pretty formidable amount. But again, I can click on that and I can just scroll through the article titles and I can read how it's used in each instance. I could also limit my content if I wanted to look only at more recent or current things. I could limit it to only work between 2000 and 2021, for instance. Now I only have 20 results. So that's something else you can think about doing if you're worried that you have too many search results. One small thing I'll notice is that people are quoting different elements and different aspects and different lines, and sometimes they're quoting a full passage. Some people will be referring just to the first line of it and be using that first line to refer to the whole speech instead of writing out the whole text. But also some people might pick out one particular line. So you'll notice that the first line has 116. The second line only has 50 articles that have been written that talk about it. There will be a lot of overlap because there will be some articles that will quote both these lines and they'll be tagged to both the lines within the Shakespeare Understanding search parameters. But also there might be a few articles here that only quote the second line and don't quote the first line. So there won't be complete overlap between the two. One other thing that's great is these little images on the right are actually thumbnails for larger images of the articles themselves. So if you mouse over them, you can actually see how much of the text is quoted and what else happens to be on the page. And if you click on them, you can pull up the entire article itself and just read and download it directly. That's my overview to JSTOR Understanding, and particularly to the Shakespeare features on JSTOR Understanding from the Southeastern University Library. Click on Articles and Databases, go to JSTOR, use the tools to go to the JSTOR Understanding series, choose Shakespeare, or go down to the menu at the bottom. Click on the play that you're hoping to use. In my case today, I used Hamlet, and then you can jump to the act and scene of the passage that you'd like to learn more about to see how many articles have been written that quote the passage or scene that you're studying. Happy research and good luck.